Get ready for the action because the Minnesota Timberwolves and San Antonio Spurs are locked in for a massive showdown. Game 1 was a brutal, steel cage battle, and the Wolves clawed their way to victory by the skin of their teeth. We break down how Victor Wembanyama's 12 blocks and the collective toughness of the Timberwolves allowed them to survive an ugly series opener. This is the story of how the Wolves survived the first bite and what it means for Game 2.
Here's a simple way to protect your phone without stress. This ALAN 3-pack comes with tempered glass screen protectors, camera lens protectors, and an installation frame for an easier, cleaner fit. It's clear, case-friendly, and built to help guard against scratches and everyday bumps. Check the link in the comments to get it on Amazon.
Next up, we dive deep into the necessary adjustments the San Antonio Spurs must make to counter the Timberwolves' size advantage. We look at what Thilo Witter from Canny's Hoopus says about the offensive creativity the Spurs need to find to match up against the Wolves' physicality, especially after that tight Game 1 loss. Find out what the Spurs coaching staff is expecting next, and if they have what it takes to stay competitive. Now we examine the crucial elements to watch in Game 2, focusing squarely on Victor Wembanyama's defensive presence and the psychological shifts in the series. We analyze what Timberwolves coach Chris Finch is watching closely regarding the goaltending calls and how the Spurs need to bounce back to avoid falling into a two-game hole. This is where the pressure truly mounts. And finally, we look at the atmosphere surrounding the Spurs as they prepare for the next challenge. We catch a glimpse of the Spurs community as players like Julian Champagny and Jordan McLaughlin take a moment to celebrate and prepare for the next round. Don't miss a second of this action. Stay with us for the rest of the broadcast. The Minnesota Timberwolves have secured a pivotal advantage heading into Game 2 of their series against the San Antonio Spurs, a matchup set to air on ESPN on May 6, 2026 at 8:30 p.m. CDT in the Frost Bank Center. Game 1 was characterized as a gritty, physical battle, a true steel cage contest rather than an elegant display of basketball genius. The Timberwolves managed to claw their way to a narrow victory, clinging to a late lead, underscoring a team forged in playoff adversity. The dynamic against San Antonio was immediately defined by Victor Wembanyama's imposing presence. The game opened with significant defensive intensity, with Wembanyama effectively transforming the paint into a restricted military zone, leading to numerous blocks. While the Timberwolves found enough offense to secure the win, the defensive struggle highlighted the difficulty of attacking a player of Wembanyama's magnitude. However, the Wolves' success was rooted in collective defensive toughness. They forced San Antonio into a series of hard possessions, physical collisions, and forced decisions, keeping the Spurs' total score to 102 points. Key contributors included Anthony Edwards, whose clutch shooting provided necessary downhill impetus, and Julius Randle, who utilized his strength late in the game to manufacture offense. Mike Conley also provided crucial stabilizing three-point shooting, while Naz Reid offered necessary spacing and offensive counterpunching. Despite the win, analysts caution that surviving Game 1 is not the same as solving the Spurs puzzle. The focus now shifts to capitalizing on the 2-0 series lead. A Game 2 victory would impose significant psychological pressure on the young Spurs, forcing Wembanyama and his team to face a battle-tested Wolves squad. Key takeaways for Minnesota moving into Game 2 emphasize several critical areas. First, offensive efficiency must be maintained. The Timberwolves cannot afford a 125-point outing, as Wembanyama's rim protection is overwhelming. Second, transition defense is paramount. Minnesota must eliminate easy transition baskets to prevent the Spurs from building momentum. Third, physicality must be maintained. The Wolves cannot afford costly fouls, as players like Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle have accumulated fouls, and every unnecessary whistle benefits San Antonio. Every possession must be earned. The strategic approach against Wembanyama must evolve beyond brute force. The solution lies in movement, forcing the Spurs' defense to rotate, making Wembanyama shift his focus, and ensuring the offense is active and deliberate, generating clean looks rather than relying on desperation heaves. The team needs to use their size and experience to make the young Spurs feel the weight of an established, scarred playoff team. Game 1 was the warning. Game 2 is the opportunity to tighten the grip and make San Antonio truly feel the weight of the hunt. The San Antonio Spurs face a crucial test in Game 2 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where the lessons learned from a tight, defensive-minded Game 1 will dictate their path forward. Analysts suggest the Spurs must significantly increase offensive creativity to counter the Timberwolves' size advantage, a dynamic that proved challenging in the recent loss. Game 1 was characterized by intense, defensive play, with neither team establishing a double-digit lead. Key observations included Minnesota's timely defensive stops, such as a crucial block by Highland leading to a game-ending dunk, and turnovers resulting from pick-and-roll execution issues. The Spurs struggled to generate meaningful shots in their final possessions, prompting questions about defensive adjustments, particularly in the fourth quarter. Coaching staff, including Chris Finch, is focused on making necessary adjustments for the series. The consensus points toward the Spurs aiming to funnel play inside to Wembanyama, leveraging his presence against opposing teams. However, a critical realization for the Spurs appears to be that blocks alone are insufficient. The Timberwolves consistently generate 50-plus paint shots, highlighting the need for more than just defensive disruption. Looking ahead to Game 2, expectations remain high for San Antonio to find a solution, with one source predicting a 20-point victory. The anticipated adjustments for Minnesota center on shifting shot selection, potentially with Ayo Dosunmu returning to key roles, and altering Rudy Gobert's deployment to overwhelm Wemby less minutes. The central question remains how the team will adapt to the Timberwolves' relentless attacking style and how effectively they can utilize their roster depth. Beyond on-court strategy, experience is cited as a major factor. Critics note that the Spurs lack the veteran leadership present on other championship teams, questioning who will step up to lead the charge. The series hinges not only on tactical changes, but also on whether the team can harness the impact of its key players and develop the necessary playoff resilience. San Antonio Spurs face the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 2 of the West semifinals, with Victor Wembanyama's minutes and defensive impact being central to the upcoming contest. Following Minnesota's 104-1 victory in Game 1, the focus has shifted to how the Spurs will respond. Timberwolves coach Chris Finch has publicly focused on the shot blocks and goaltending incidents involving Wembanyama, expressing concern that several blocks were not called as goaltends. Finch emphasized the significance of Wembanyama's presence, noting that a single misinterpreted block could be decisive for the series. The Spurs' strategy moving forward hinges on maximizing their team's offensive opportunities, rather than solely relying on Wembanyama's blocking prowess. Timberwolves forward Naz Reid anticipates Wembanyama will continue to attack the rim and utilize his resilience, while reserve Terry Shannon Jr. is focused on ensuring Wembanyama is challenged on every drive. On the offensive side, veteran guard De'Aaron Fox was criticized for a lackluster performance in Game 1, with low scoring and high turnovers, a performance Fox admitted was his responsibility. Wembanyama's usage has been high, averaging 29.2 minutes in 64 games, and the Spurs may need to rely on him for nearly 40 minutes per game against Minnesota. Concerns also exist regarding potential fatigue, as the Spurs were outscored by 7 points in the 8 minutes Wembanyama was on the bench in Game 1. The series continues as the conference semifinals begin in the East and West. San Antonio Spurs players were spotted shopping in town shortly after their fourth playoff victory against the Portland Trail Blazers, adding a layer of celebrity to the celebration. Amidst the crowd of fans celebrating on the road, Spurs sharpshooter Julian Champagny joined the festivities, having recently excelled in the first round by shooting over 60% from beyond the arc. The team enjoyed nearly a week to decompress and prepare for the second round of the playoffs between the departure of Portland and the arrival of the Minnesota Timberwolves. During this time, players were seen engaging in casual activities, including taking photos while shopping. Jordan McLaughlin was reportedly seen browsing antiques, while Champagny visited Sephora and paused for photos. The presence of the players in public has significantly increased the Spurs' visibility, marking a notable experience for some fans who may be new to playoff excitement. The team has reportedly managed the attention with poise and grace, while also fitting in necessary errands like Mother's Day shopping before heading to Minneapolis. The Post also opened a community thread inviting fans to discuss the experience and share their thoughts within the Spurs community guidelines.